Hi there. Let me start by providing some background on my journey with my wife. I am a 22-year-old man and I met my wife, who is 25, about 4 years ago. We crossed paths at my first job right after I finished school. At the time, I was just about to turn 19 and she had recently turned 21. When we started dating, it felt like a dream come true. We were inseparable and completely obsessed with each other. We didn't have any conflicts until around 8 or 9 months into our relationship. That's when we started to notice things about each other that we had initially overlooked due to being so caught up in our happiness. To give you a bit more insight, my wife has been diagnosed with several mental health conditions, including bipolar disorder, severe anxiety, and she carries a lot of trauma from her past relationships and family background. I won't go into detail about her personal struggles, but suffice it to say, they are quite serious and have significantly affected her life. Our first major challenge in the relationship was discovering that she had been unfaithful. At that time, I was still living with my parents in a different borough of New York City, while she had her own apartment in the city. One day, I was getting ready to head back to my home borough to meet up with some friends for a volleyball game, which had been planned for about a week. I had been staying with her for a couple of nights, and as I was leaving, she desperately clung to my arm, pleading with me not to go. The intensity of her grip was so strong that I feared I might hurt her if I tried to pull away. I was confused and upset by her sudden behavior, which I felt was manipulative. I asked her why she was telling me this at the last minute. She continued to beg, and since bringing her along had been suggested before, but never worked out due to her dislike of the long travel, I left feeling bewildered and angry. My phone signal was poor once I arrived at the game, and I couldn't tell if she was trying to reach me or not. I assumed she was giving me the silent treatment, and the whole outing was ruined by the fight. When I finally got a connection, I saw that she had bombarded me with messages, ranging from apologetic to angry. I explained that I had no service and was sorry for everything, promising to come back and spend the night with her. We reconciled, and things seemed to return to normal. A few weeks later, while we were getting her vaccinated for COVID, I had a sinking feeling in my stomach. She handed me her phone to hold, assuming I would play around with it like we sometimes did with each other's devices. To my dismay, my intuition was right. She had been sexting with a guy she knew from before, on Snapchat, the very day I had left for the volleyball game. She had gotten very drunk and, feeling alone and angry, made this poor decision. Confronting her led to a painful argument, with both of us in tears. She told me she felt deeply ashamed afterward and had reached out to a close friend for support. My wife has a tendency to resort to drinking when she's upset, a habit stemming from her traumatic past. Despite my hurt, I chose to forgive her and hoped I had made the right decision. Fast forward a month and I again had that awful gut feeling. This time, I violated her privacy and looked through her phone, finding more evidence of inappropriate messages with another guy she knew from a brief stay in Texas. This led to another round of tears and anguish, and I told her that I was at my breaking point and begged her to stop hurting me. Over time, I gradually rebuilt my trust in her, and a few months later I proposed. We decided to elope around our second anniversary, and now here we are. Over the last year and a half, I realize I've been particularly neglectful. I haven't been meeting her needs as I should have. She's pleaded with me to be more attentive and not to seem so irritated when she asks for something simple. We recently emerged from a significant financial struggle with rent debt, and I made some poor financial decisions, believing I could resolve them without affecting our payment plans. Despite this, there were times when we had enough money for small dates, but I still failed to fulfill her emotional needs. More recently, we had another serious conversation about how I wasn't meeting her needs and how she often gave up plans with her friends to accommodate me, only for me to not engage much. I moved in with her in her borough, far from my parents and friends. I also lost my job for 6 months during our first year of marriage, which put us in a deeper financial hole. One day at work, I lashed out at her over text, overwhelmed by feelings that my needs were also unmet, and that we were punishing each other instead of loving each other as we once did. This was a huge mistake on my part and pushed her to her breaking point. Since then, our relationship has been fraught with tension. I've tried to turn things around, rekindling my commitment to our relationship because I can't bear the thought of losing her. She's expressed frustration, believing that if I could change now, I could have done so all along. I tried explaining that I had been dealing with depression and using my computer as an escape, and that my efforts to improve were never fully acknowledged. She didn't find my explanation satisfactory, saying that she understands mental health issues well, but they've never driven her to hurt me like that. We've had numerous discussions where she said she's unsure if she can trust my newfound behavior and if it's enough at this point. I took the step to start couples counseling, hoping that professional guidance would help us open up and work towards genuine progress and goals. Despite the obvious strain between us, we still maintain some level of intimacy. She tells me she loves me deeply, but isn't sure if love alone is enough to carry us through this rough patch. If you need any more details, feel free to ask. I apologize for the lengthy post, but I felt it was important to provide full context.